And most of what I'm going to do this morning, I believe I feel the weight of responsibility on my shoulders as a political leader in a party, number one. And then secondly, as someone who had the privilege of serving as the Cabinet Minister for Interior and Coordination of National Government, and therefore sat in the apex of the national security infrastructure in the country for about 5 years. We have spoken about these things for a while, but it's now abundantly clear that the President and his government have chosen violence as a weapon for political survival and as a weapon for political engagement. And I'm not going to start where usually people start, with these tired cliches about we condemn in the strongest terms possible, we ask for action. I'm not going to go that direction, because what we are dealing with is abundantly clear to all of us that we have come to a point where certain serious conversations must happen in this country and choices must be made. This is not rocket science. You don't need a degree in geophysics to see what is going on in the country. This weekend alone, from the stoning incident in Mulot that affected my 2 vehicles, to the stoning incident in Nakuru Town West that affected DCP leaders, and then Salga, and then yesterday in Homa Bay. It's so clear to everyone that, one, there's a pattern to this. Second, there's very clear acquiescence of government in this, because you look at the behavior of the security forces on this matter. And three, you can see, blatantly, a case of, determination on the part of government to engage in this level of violence. From my experience, I want to tell Kenyans very sincerely, I do not think, and I cannot see how the scale of violence in Homa Bay and the activity that happened there could have happened without the knowledge of the National Security Council, and without the knowledge especially of the President. Because I have been in that environment before. The President receives executive intelligence briefings wherever he is, even if he is in Greenland or attending the UN General Assembly. Such intelligence information is gathered and the President is briefed very regularly. So when you look at what happened in Homa Bay, it's crime at industrial scale. The planning, you can see clearly the choreography, the management of that, and the resources that could have been spent in that clearly shows you that this is something that was premeditated, it had been happening, it was planned. The next question you ask is, where was the county security team led by the county commissioner in Homa Bay? Where was the regional security team led by the regional commissioner in Kisumu? In most cases, unless the operations of government have changed in a very significant manner, and my dear Kenyans, listen to me, this is something I know like the back of my hand. Unless the management of government has changed in any significant manner, the situation in Homa Bay is one where even the regional police commander should have taken control and taken over the command of what was happening in Homa Bay and assembled resources. I am aware, because that the deployment has not changed. I am aware that in that region, the police have got even special resources. There are border police, there is a GSU. They would have been able to mobilize sufficient resources to address what was happening, but they couldn't, because clearly there was a sense of acceptance on the part of the security forces that ought to have happened. The tragedy of it all is that now we have been warning everybody, and that's why I'm not going to go into those, usual silly niceties of saying we warn, we condemn. We are already in a crisis. We have now begun our final descension into anarchy as a country. Let's not pretend about it. When you look at the scale of destruction, the pain and the losses in Homa Bay, into chaos. The President and his government have chosen. Because ask yourself the question, you can go far back to the attacks in Odaya, when Rigathi Gachagua was going to church and he was attacked there by armed people and so on. All the way the 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, when Linda Mwananchi convoy was stoned in a place called Keumbu in Kisii. Those guys were arrested. They were to court on Monday. There wasn't a prosecutor, there wasn't a file, there was nothing. The magistrate released them, they walked away. When the local member of parliament was invited to record a statement by the DCI, he did not as much as turn up. We lost a life there, a gentleman called Mapinduzi. We buried him a while ago, and that story is gone. We are going on. No investigations done, no arrests, nothing. 2 weeks earlier, elected leaders, members of the county assembly in Kisii, were beaten up by thugs in the center of town at 9 a.m. in the morning. When I arrived there with a bunch of lawyers to see these guys in hospital, the police officers were telling me they don't have B3, all manner of these silly excuses you keep hearing all the time. To this day, no one has been arrested or prosecuted about that. The county government there in Kisii is running a militia, terrorizing people at night, going to estates, beating up people and so on, with the acquiescence of the police. Because the police know this. And everywhere in the country, you saw online last week what happened here in Allingham 1 month ago on Thika Road. 9 o'clock in the morning, thugs closed the road and terrorized people. We have begun our final descension into chaos. The question now for us as Kenyans is, how do we approach this and what are we going to do? So we are beyond condemning, beyond threatening, beyond asking for action. I think for me, beginning now, and I will consult with my colleagues in the opposition, we are going to have a retreat next week, and all Kenyans of goodwill, let us now engage our thoughts and minds on how are we going to deal with this government. Because this is not ordinary business. What you are seeing here is not ordinary business. There are no arrests. The political difference is not a good enough excuse to inflict the kind of loss and pain that we have seen this weekend. And while we are on that, and I will discuss more of this when I get another opportunity. There's stuff that people are not talking about. The government has decided to now begin, in addition to terrorizing opposition leaders, if you did not know, and some of my staffers are here, they will tell you, they began a new wave of digital terrorism against the opposition. They have acquired resources from some criminal groups in the nation country, and they are accessing social media accounts of opposition leaders. These days, we get trailed, and my staffers can bear me out. We get trailed by vehicles, I believe they belong to the state, with jammers. We stop to address rallies, our Wi-Fi is interfered with, you cannot communicate. I was checking with my staffers who were checking with the team that Rigathi Gachagua was traveling with over the weekend. They began experiencing the same challenges on the trail. And these are jammers. I believe this is the work of the state. Who has the capacity to do that? You have seen unprecedented investment in propaganda, fake news, and so on. Last week you saw a letter purported, or a statement purportedly authored by Kanze Dena, the communication head of the fourth president, claiming that President Kenyatta has said he's not going to meet with Rigathi Gachagua and so on and so forth. All that is the work of the state. Now the state is investing huge amounts of money in propaganda, in fake news, and so on, targeting the opposition, and so on, instead of focusing on the challenges we have as a country. All these are acts of a government that is not interested in the order and stability of the country. And let us not delude ourselves. Let us not delude ourselves. Countries that have begun this path this way end up like some of our neighbors. The level of anarchy in the country and the evidence of state failure is all over, is replete. And by the way, we talk to senior officers even in the security sector. They are demoralized, they are so frustrated. Where do we get some of this information? Is senior security officers, some of who talk to us, and they are equally demoralized. They are frustrated. They tell you all these things. They say this is unprecedented. The level of state-supported or state-tolerated crime against the people of Kenya is unacceptable. So I think the government has made its choice on this particular matter. It's now upon the people of Kenya to also now make their choice. And this is not going to come easily like that. It's going to require all of us to have conversations, consult one another, plan, and take a course that we believe, first of all, is lawful and preservative of our country, and then see how else we can address this problem. Otherwise, we are not going to reverse this. You know, our fellow citizens who happen to be in power, President Ruto and his colleagues, imagine unwisely that access to instruments of power guarantees you control and management of this for a long time. They are so wrong, and they will discover how wrong they are shortly. The unfortunate thing is that it will be at the expense of lives such as those that were lost in Homa Bay. Because none of us, you know, you can't terrorize the public as a way of surviving, because the repercussions are dire. When Mwananchi begin to respond to this terrorism, to this madness by the state, you will not be able to control the country. You are radicalizing the country to a point where you won't be able to control it. When people rise up against this, it's going to be completely uncontrollable. Because ask yourself the question, these people you are paying, these thugs you are paying and goons and all that, to terrorize your opponents, when they are done terrorizing your opponents, what are they going to do? They are going to turn on you, first of all. They will come to your houses. They will want this money. You are socializing them to a consistent supply of income through crime. And that is not going to be the way of sustaining our country. Finally, because we are in this, and then let's be